Hello, everyone. I hope that you managed to join the session and welcome. Today we'll be speaking about the growth mindset and the way to overcome a trap that sometimes you are getting into, which is focusing on multiple things rather than figuring out what is the one key element we want to pursue. So my name is Kasia Mrowca. I was a keen speaker 5 years ago, but now is my first formal speech after a really long break. So I really hope that you give me thumbs up and that you will enjoy this session today. So quickly, who I am. I'm a technical professional from like almost 15 years now, sorry, not that old anymore. And I worked as an engineer, then I moved to the product roles. And during that period of time, I had experience in the smaller companies, big companies. I had also a baggage of a consulting experience. So I've seen a lot, and I thought that it would be good to gather all of this into a quick recipe, how to transform our businesses, our companies that are actually software focused and building focused into something that generates the revenue and then essentially gives us the growth. And then obviously that also will lead to the salaries we all deserve. So why this is also important and why I even thought it's worth to getting into it. You might recognize this bottom picture. There is plenty of corporate systems that we just keep adding features. We keep like redoing them all over again. Sometimes we forget about the actual business need that was originated with the app. And then we created something. It might work, it might doesn't work. Some users might still use a paper to continue their usual operations rather than actually using something we created. And I noticed that this is especially painful if you are working for internal IT department. You really want to serve your business as well as you can. But on the other hand, you have this overload of the features and requirements, and maybe you struggle with prioritization. On the other hand, if you are in the smaller company, there's another question. What is the key thing that I really want to make really well that will make me to grow and expand on the market? And what you obviously should see behind this picture I'm presenting now, that it is a kind of a joke, but has a bit of a truth as well, I guess. That simple doesn't mean simplistic, that all the products from the key big companies that you admire, at some point we're starting small. Not like none of these was like born super big and super successful. It usually had to compete on the market with other people who are the key players. And I think that actually the offering that we see over example over here, like Google or Apple, shows that you could beat a giant, which was Microsoft in the 90s, and then lead the market later on. So even position of a leader, it's not warranted and not, let's say, stable if you are not working towards really like same goal. And you might ask, okay, well, why is that, and where is the problem, and what does growth actually even mean? And again, in the software industry, we kind of experience it that at the beginning we're like kind of small, we have a couple of features, and then it exponentially explodes with bigger number because we have bigger user base. Maybe actually we validated our idea and we expanded on the market. And then we don't take into consideration that sometimes, and actually that's more frequent than the other, there is a sweet spot somewhere where we have actually market fit, maybe not even a happy user with our application. Then further growth of the features doesn't really matter. And this is where the product innovation comes in, where we should actually think around maybe splitting to the different offerings, maybe adding additional process, or actually thinking, is it really the core of the things that we're doing? Are we really understanding the business we are targeting to? And I think that one of the examples I kind of like, because it's public and it's not really a mystery, I think that Microsoft is like a really good and sad example of where the growth and overdoing with the features kind of kills of a good products. And I think that the overtaking of good product, that was Skype, that now, which was the market leader, led to unfortunately adding additional features that were not needed, but then slow down entire experience. And then turning down the leader that was there years to something that barely anyone uses. And other examples, Zoom, that we're using at the moment, which did one thing brilliantly, which is video conferencing. This is what they're focused on. This is what the core business was all about. This is what they mastered. And that's why we're now on Zoom rather than using Skype. That used to be the solution for video conferencing in the pretty much early 2000s and the 90s. So this is really important, the question why, what we are doing, what we are targeting to avoid the complexity, and then unfortunately going into the trap of delivering something that is overcomplicated, doesn't deliver business value, and then in the end of the day makes our business obsolete and maybe not as successful as it could be. So what this all talk about revenue generation versus cost optimization is. So obviously in terms of the company's strategies, there might be different. And I know that people who are here on this session will sometimes be in the corporate world, sometimes will be in the startup world, sometimes maybe somewhere in the mix in the small, medium-sized companies, and you not always have a luxury of a choice on what product you're working on. But what I found, like no matter where you sit, you can try to figure out the delivery of requirements, what you're doing, in a way that will contribute to the growth of the business. Because imagine if you have a certain budget that you can spend on development, you can spend it on either reducing the costs for the company or reducing costs on you, which is sometimes also a bit of a tricky. Or you can make the budget work in a way that every dollar or every pound you are putting in then generates $2, $3, $5, $6. So basically you are on the growth path. So that's the choice as a product person, as a developer, as a person who is in the Scrum team, that you need to help your business people, your product owners to make. And this is usually connected with the feature prioritization and how we are delivering software. And why I'm highlighting that, because frequently what happens is we have a Scrum meeting, we discuss our goals and what we are doing, and we're definitely also doing estimations and other stuff. Barely ever we add to this view like a business value, for instance, or even thinking out of the box, or asking the questions, okay, is the thing that we are doing really benefiting the overarching business? Do we really understanding what our business is doing? So that's why I thought it's good to have this really quick pause and rethinking on this. Usually on the conferences when I was speaking live, I would ask you to raise the hands, who sits where, to make sure that we are addressing the proper questions over the audience. But because this is online, I will try to be generic, and with the next slide, answer the questions based on the different type of the companies. So if you can imagine, I put this small illustration of the pot of gold under the end of a mystical rainbow. Why is that? So every time we're doing something, our business, our people we are working with, they have in mind that once we deliver something, it will instantly generate the impact. So our role is to be transparent and say to them, okay, that might not necessarily work. So what I'm trying to address over here, if we as people who are engaged in a process understand the core of the business and we know what our business as a whole does the best, we can then advise which directions we should go. And you might ask, okay, let's say I'm working for a company that has internal ERP system that helps our operations to, let's say, deliver parcels on time. In recent times, in COVID, as you noticed, the operations to delivering parcels was super important. So people who master the logistic chain or the changes really quickly were actually winning the market. So this is why, like, understanding what we are doing, where we are sitting in the process is really important. On the other side, if we are, again, in the same company and basically we are having the same operations challenges and we also do other things, let's say HR system, but at that stage is not that critical because let's say we fight with the operations for delivery of the logistics, we can still reprioritize knowing what is the core focus and then make sure that we are addressing the key elements first. So why key elements? If we look at the companies that survived over the years and delivered the biggest like revenues over time, they were focusing on the elements that are doing best, not necessarily diversifying too much. Diversification, in one sense, it's good. On the other hand, it's not necessarily allowing us to bring to the level we want in terms of the delivered outcomes. Why is that? Because we are spreading our resources that are usually limited into multiple things. And this, as I mentioned, might not necessarily be the best for basically delivering stuff fast. Because another element that we need to focus on is time to market. But let's say that we are innovative bunch and we came up with this amazing ideas to address our core business needs. Where the innovation actually sits, where is the best place to put it? So first of all, we need to figure it out. Does anyone actually needs our product? Is it addressing anything that is actually usable on the market? So I put here an illustrative picture. So if we are working on innovation, we need to address if it's, first of all, like feasible. Is it like breaking all the rules of physics to deliver it in the way we're designing it? Is it even a market for the tank, which is also a helicopter? Because maybe we just have amazing innovation, but no one wants to buy it. What's the time to build this? Maybe we should scale it down and figure it out, something that is more achievable to basically deliver. So all of this is the questions we should ask. And I put here a magical word, which is market sizing. So I think especially this is important for startups. Bigger companies have the luxury of being experimentative in a way because they have a customer base they can probe into, like smaller products and like smaller ventures. Startups usually they need to try to be more creative in terms of trying to figure it out if there is a market for their innovation. Why I'm saying that? Mainly because startups not necessarily have a lot of cash, or even if they have cash, then at some point investing is finishing. So you kind of need to prove that you have market fit ready application to scale, and you can host more customers and sell it afterwards. Obviously, there are examples of a lot of companies that did the products that then maybe not necessarily, I mean, they were still evaluated for a lot of money, but they were not necessarily making the revenue. Oops. Sorry for this. So how we can try to figure it out if we have market fit, or is it like even a space for our product? So one of the elements is making the surveys with potential clients and saying, hi, by the way, we're coming with this product, sign up for knowing more. We can make a literally fake website, maybe not fake, like low cost website on Wix or any other Squarespace kind of thing, where you can make a design from the template relatively low cost and see how many people sign up for your newsletter, how many individual users you have looking at your website, and like mock the solution to at least see if you are in the green zone. So this quadrant that we have on the left, so we have like 76% or I don't know, 50% of the users that were interested in seeing more after visiting your website versus maybe not. Why I'm not talking here about A/B testing, because the sad reality that is that sometimes we not necessarily have money to do the A/B testing at the beginning. So the answer about the market sizing is more, is there anyone to buy it? Because I think the most painful element, especially from a product person, or even like, I mean, anyone who is building any software tools, is building something and then learning that no one wants to buy it and there is no market. And I think that was my sad realization during the IT career, when I work and see many startups that had really good ideas, at least on paper, but then because of the various reasons, there was not enough demand on the market to sell them, because maybe they were a bit more ahead of the curve, or maybe they were behind the curve because there was already competition that was doing the thing. So returning to the question on the what idea should be pursued, no matter if we are in the internal big company or in a startup, is, okay, do we have users? Do we know the personas that will potentially use the product? Do we know if they're willing to pay for it? And competitor question. So does anyone did it before? How our competitions are doing? Are they profitable? And again, this is really easy to check. You can go to Crunchbase and actually see, especially in the startups world, how it is profitable. If you are in the corporate world, you have a Gartner quadrant where you can see where the competition is, what the features they're delivering. I know it sounds a bit old school, but even Googling and going to the website of our competitions to see what features they're providing is helpful, because then you can see what is the scope they already delivered. And some people are a bit more open and even put the roadmaps publicly available. So we can really do a lot of research before we go to the development. You may ask, okay, why I should even bother on getting the information before we start development? That may be a product person responsibility, or maybe I actually want to follow what business people will tell me. Obviously, yes, but on the other hand, if you want to contribute to the growth and have this growth entrepreneur mindset within your Scrum team, you can do this 5 minutes research by your own and see, okay, what's out there, how other people did it. And also it will just help you not reinvent the wheel and make more scalable and better solutions for the future that will eventually lead to better products. And you can again say, okay, let's say I'm working for a bank. A bank have like established products for like ages. Some of them are legacy, some of them just went through recent digitalization, and I'm, let's say, this fortunate person working on the digital app for my bank, and I'm delivering features for there. What I can do, I mean, this is all given me to the business. And here you can still see what competitors are doing, and what is interesting, you can see what other markets are doing. I actually especially like this example because some of the markets are more ahead than the others. And being in the UK, I can definitely see how the banks approach the mobile apps here versus my native country, Poland, versus the country I was working a bit, which is Germany. So I have a comparison in between those three markets, but I can easily see, like just checking out how it could work, like in France or other markets and basically get the inspiration where they headed to and what the good looks like. So then it can be suggested and developed. Then we did this pursue, and let's say that actually our picture is not too good. And I here want to just kind of cover a bit about reporting. So if we have our Scrum and we just did our little investigation to see where you are, where is the market, where we should go, what is the core of our business, and let's say that our core is the operations to help to ship parcels quicker, and instead of doing that, we are, let's say, doing HR feature to approve holidays. The question is how to tell the unpleasant truth, and can we do it? Shall we do it? And I think this is the biggest problem with the companies, especially the bigger ones. So even if we tell people that work directly with us, okay, it's actually not too good, the likelihood that it will go to the leadership level is kind of small. I like to name it watermelon reporting. What it actually is. So we have a plan. Someone did a waterfall, but basically in a Scrum manner in a 2 weekly basis, and not necessarily listening to our feedback or anything of the sort, and basically reports the status on a weekly basis. Green, 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 green. And then the delivery date comes and we see that we are in massive red. We delivered something. That something might even work, but does it address the problem? Does it address what we want to achieve? And can basically this help us to grow our business? Really frequently, the answer is no. And why this is happening? So there are like few elements, and I will address the corporate reality because I was working a lot with different companies as a consultant. So first of all, executives frequently really like to listen that something is green. And if someone doesn't agree with it, they might even not necessarily even, I mean, they will see at the report, they will just get angry, and that's it. And course correction is not an option. Can we influence it? That's a bit tough situation. And what I usually advise in that, I know that this site maybe didn't have too many of the charts, but the elements that are usually really speaking to people is the charts and saying, okay, what the problem we're trying to address actually reaches just this left-hand side, the 10% of our users of our needs. 76% need something else. Going back to the example of the operations to send the parcels, this is the 76% versus 10% of approval of the holidays. This can be translated to any other business question and any other opportunity that we are pursuing. If we want to do, let's say, app that is competitive on the market, and we know that we already have a competitor, and we know that, for instance, if we do A, we not necessarily do any different than others, then why you even want to pursue? So basically finding the market and trying to visualize where you are and where are the gains are leading to at least starting the conversation. But to do that, you need to understand what your business is doing. So I kind of circled back to the slide with the goal and the idea that should be pursued. There's a really good author, Jim Collins. He wrote multiple books. And one of the elements I noticed, and you can obviously agree or not, but one of the elements I noticed over years with working with big companies as a consultant, that companies that were doing things right were the ones who actually focused on the core and were pursuing, let's say, one overarching goal. It doesn't mean they didn't diversify the strategies, they didn't have different products, but they, at the same time, they knew what they want to do and knew what they want to head to. And at the same time, were developing the products and the solutions that were moving everyone the same direction. Companies that were trying to diversify too much or just pull in the different directions are not necessarily that successful and not necessarily surviving on the market long. And I think it's worth to remember, mainly because we as a technology partners to our business we should be in a conversation, and we should be able to advise our business people. And I want to change here the mindset of just attending the Scrum meeting and taking the requirements and developing them, to having the open discussion and asking, okay, where we are heading, why we need that, and can we improve? Can we suggest something that will move our business to the next level? And it might seem really simple, but at the same time, especially in the corporate world, it isn't. And here I think it would be great if you can try to think and answer yourself, how many times you actually try to size the market for product you are doing? Did you even check the competitors? And let's say that you are developing internal tools. Did you even try to figure it out if there is like anything on the market that is already there that you can just, buy it and roll out? Or you were just so focused on developing things that you never even looked for the features on the other market? My practical, I have my answer. I didn't used to do it, let's say, before my consulting times. And then I figured out that actually knowing where we sit and knowing what others are doing helps a lot of avoiding reinventing wheel that I was already mentioning. So you might ask, okay, what is the golden grail once we know that we are red and we presented the charts to our executives and they kind of acknowledged that maybe we are not as green as we thought we are, and we can actually react and course correct. And you might ask, okay, what is this strategy? What is this pursuit that we should all go with in order to get the growth to our company? So I thought that I will just give you a simple checklist and help you with basically taking it back to the business, taking it back to your Scrum teams or any other development methods you're using. I actually should apologize that I assume that everyone does a Scrum because there's other agile methods available. But what you can do in order to help and what you can do to contribute to growth of your company or your startup, or if you work in a corporate, how you can change the mindset. You would be surprised how easy the step is. So first of all, know your company. That's another like kind of a surprising element that I found in maybe not many, but in a few cases, that we have a company that has some of let's say a motto or like a purpose, but people don't necessarily know what it is. And here the consulting times, I think, helped me a lot to actually identifying what my clients are the best at, because this is how I could help them, to say how I could help them flourish. And this is how we as the development teams, we as engineers can help flourish our businesses, actually knowing what they're doing and what they're best at. Why is that? Because let's say that we are working for a retailer, and let's say that retailer basically is competing with other retailers, which is pretty much obvious thing. What is the specialty here that differentiates it from anything else? And example here, a disclaimer, I didn't work for that company, but this is also market leader, given as a multiple examples, is Ocado. Well, Ocado is a grocery store, but it grew to the technology company because someone asked the question, okay, how we can differentiate, how we can be better than others. And it turned out the operations, the excellence in providing the service for the online shopping is the differentiator. And this is how the company could grow to the place where it's at and where actually can sell their own model outside. So I think this is like really important. Then I mentioned checking the size of the market, then trying to figure it out how to spy on competition, maybe not spy, but look what they're doing. Make sure that we know how to scale, because making a small solution is one thing, making it scalable for the future is another. And I think last but not least, avoiding watermelons. So if you know that something is off, just speak up. I can't guarantee that people will listen, but if you prepare, if you know what you're good at, if you know the market size, if you know the competition, and if you have like a vague idea how to scale it, this can massively help everyone to grow together and achieve the goals that then help your company to flourish. And I think now the Q&A session starts. Okay, I'll be reading the questions out loud and answering. So question 1, what's your view on the companies that over pivot on growth mindset in the business? So I think that pivoting is a really interesting question. So first of all, you need to be able to pivot. Why is that? Because the times changes. And I think COVID last year showed that if the company can pivot quickly, they can survive. If they can't, then sometimes they struggle. I hope no more pandemics will happen. But being able to be flexible enough to change the strategy is important. On the other hand, pivoting too frequently also doesn't make sense, simply because you can't prove the concept that you already had and had enough of the market validation. So my advice, how to find a sweet spot, would be trying to figure out what are the roots. And I think I will put to the example of the airlines. One of them is Southwest. This is one of the only airlines that was continuously profitable for 20 years until the COVID hit. And why? Because their strategy was to be cost efficient. And this is how they kind of achieved it without turbulating too much. So then the next question is, startups, are they usually tight on marketing budget? As you mentioned, what are some growth hacking ways that you recommend for getting products off the ground for the understanding the total addressable market? Yes, marketing is tight. So how to do things in that space? First, networking events and trying to figure it out if you can speak with people who can introduce to your market audience, then to send the survey. Surveys can be done really cheaply in a way, meaning, as I mentioned, simple website, asking them details to register the interest. So that's one. A lot of people try to cooperate with, and again, depends on obviously the business, with influencers of a sort in a certain industry with like relatively low or actually lower budgets than if you would go to any of the magazines or other things like this, where you can gather the interest. If you are in the corporate world, use your network, use the LinkedIn, check if you have friends working certain corporates to probe if they would be interested in buying the products. And I think the easiest way of asking this is, how much are you willing to pay? Even if you have a couple of people and you put the price tag and said, yes, I would buy it or I buy it, this is where it shows you, okay, this has a benefit. Because the problem is that if something is free, majority of the people will say, yeah, I like it. If you ask someone to buy it, then there is a question, then you see if they would actually commit to do it. And if you have real market. Okay, I'm basically running out of time, so I'm going back to the questions. Are you still seeing the typical engineering product development mindset of a build and then, wait. Build and then it will come, or it is the past now? Okay, so I think it depends. In the smaller companies, I think people try to be as agile as possible and understand the business. But then I think that then the element of trying to figure out the market and spy on competitors or like check the competitors is the element that is kind of still lacking in a sense. And traditional mindset in like build it and throw it over the fence. Yes, I saw it in a couple of bigger companies that are like in Fortune 500 that I worked with as a consultant. And it wasn't necessarily like any bad intentions. It was just how the companies were structured and the fact that the IT department were additional to the core business. And because of the structure, I think no one was even told that they can be partners in the conversation. So I think knowing that, yes, we can be partners can bring people up to this better route over time. Okay, I think I have 20 seconds left. So if there's any more questions, and I thought that there are a few more, I'm here on the conference. I'm happy to chat via the VoHub or Twitter. So thank you so much for your participation and have a great day.